Pandit, you say we have no knowledge of these forces and operations. I presume you mean knowledge from the level of intellect, but the shape of events to come, your prognosis of human events, comes from a higher level of awareness, and therefore we do have knowledge from the transhuman superconscious state. Would you explain that, please?
You see, taking into account the general atmosphere, I mean the mental atmosphere prevailing at present, revelation, inspiration, intuition, and all things, all paranormal channels of knowledge are not accepted by all as a valid source of information for human beings. There is so much confusion of views and so much display of materialistic tendencies that they do not receive the amount of recognition that they should. For instance, let us take the case of revelation of our scriptural teachings. A great crisis has come about which threatens even the survival of the race. And if we turn now to this scriptural knowledge, we find that the warnings are there, that if we depart from the prescribed path of life, then natural calamities or the anger of God follows. But we never take it seriously. It is for this reason that I said that we have at present no generally accepted knowledge of these paranormal channels of information, and the research on Kundalini by scientific methods is expected to create that awareness on a very rational and scientific footing. As I was saying, that there are devices and forces in the human consciousness which can react on such occasions. We are very well aware that strange group instincts regulate the behavior of ants, bees, and many other forms of herd animals, monkeys, elephants. There are powerful instincts in the individual members of the group, but also collective instincts by which they behave in a certain way and in a certain manner under crisis or under certain eventualities. They have those ingrained instinctual safeguards built in them. Does it not stand to reason that the collective consciousness of the race or the group consciousness of humanity must also have some sorts of safeguards built in it to see that the race ascends the path of evolution without ever annihilating herself or without ever going the path of degeneration with no return? There are such, and they have come into operation at different times in the history of mankind. The difficulty is that the laboratory is so vast and the time through which man has to live and to act is so colossal, and the position is so complex because all the 4 billion of people think in their own way that it is not possible for the intellect to gather this information. It is only intuition that without the aid of reason or the intellect can place its finger at the right information. And it is this that in a crisis like this, certain warning signs, certain strange states of mind occur among the individuals. And we see there is enough evidence for it. There are millions of people who have a terror of the coming war. There are millions of people who are after a new age. There are millions of people who are after enlightenment. There are millions of people who have again turned religious. Even in the communist countries, there is also an urge for knowledge of paranormal forces. So you see, already in the human mind, there is a ferment, as if something unusual is to happen, or as if we are in a situation which needs some kind of an outlet to ease it. You can trace all the present day deep search for spiritual knowledge also to this ferment caused by the collective consciousness of it. There is a subconscious fear everywhere of impending calamities, and as you know, many clairvoyants and psychics, they are also foretelling that something will happen, something will happen, something will happen, to warn mankind that the situation calls for care and attention. It does not happen that a voice would speak from the skies, or that there would be a warning written across the firmament, but it happens by reaction on the human minds, and we have enough evidence to show that the minds of people are disturbed. They are not happy with the present situation. They instinctively feel that something might happen, something is about to happen. Now, what I envisage and what has been revealed to me is not what the intellect would presume. For instance, considering the nuclear weapons and the present political situation of the world, we would suppose that a war would annihilate all mankind, or at least destroy a large part of the populations. What is revealed to me is that natural events will coincide in such a way with our preparations for war or our actual conflicts as to minimize the destruction. It may be, considering the whole bulk of humanity, only a superficial injury. It will not be a fatal injury. It will not be even a grave wound. But it will be enough to turn men from their present course. How this would occur, what things would take place, what events would befall, I cannot say. I can only say this much, that even in the next 2 decades, in the next 20 years, there will occur natural events and also events on the human plane which would divert the attention of mankind towards a new way of life. And by the beginning of the next century, the world will be no longer divided, but there will be one world confederacy ruling over mankind. This is absolutely necessary because of the demands of evolution. At the present moment, the way of life is distorting the human mind. You see, the more we evolve, the more sensitive becomes the human system. It has been a fallacious thing to suppose that yoga or search for God hardens the system. It doesn't make it more brutal, more crude, more hard. It makes it more sensitive, more loving, more perceptive. It may be able to endure cold and heat and privations and other things, but on the whole, the change is towards a more delicate and a more perceptive instrument. And as we see, compare human beings to animals. Animals eat one kind of food, live among the worst possible environments, have no idea of sanitation or anything, and